Hi, I'm Karla, and this is my husband Jacob, and we are Flowerdaze Farm up in Trinity County. And we are here to talk about defining the values of regenerative farming. This is a time where we're seeing a lot of marketing being thrown at ourselves and at consumers, and a lot of things are being said, but when it really comes down to it, we all need to look further. And we need to really educate ourselves and ask questions. And as a farmer, we really need to ask questions of ourselves. And one of those is, why are we really doing this? A lot of us have been doing this for the plant for a long time. And for whatever reason, we were called to it in our lives, regardless of what the law said. And here we are being put into a system today where, in some ways, it's amazing because we can actually say to the world what we really do. And in other ways, it's terrifying because we're being forced to conform to these systems that, in a lot of ways, we're really ethically opposed to. And so here we are, and what can we do about it? And the most important thing is, well, we still have the intentions behind why we do what we do and why we grow the medicine, but beyond that, why we are called to be back to the land and the earth, and what are we doing with that? And it's about something much deeper. It's about what are we leaving to our children? And if we don't leave them healthy soil, I mean, we've got about 10 or 15 years left to really turn it around. I mean, it's not a joke. But there is so much we can do. First of all, 70% of the world's food is still being produced by small farmers today. And don't let anybody tell you differently, because that's the truth. And if you think about it with medicine too, why should it be any different? Where do people really want their medicine to come from? And does it make a difference? Hell yeah, it makes a big difference. So the way that you farm and everything that you put into that is part of what comes out. And we're seeing it with our own human health. It's absolutely true of our food, and it's absolutely true of our medicine. So when you're a cultivator, you really want to approach the situation as, how can I really think of the farm as an interconnected living organism that's part of an ecosystem, from the smallest microbe all the way up to the cosmos and places far, far away that are actually affecting life on this planet. And it's all interconnected, and there's a lot happening. And the intelligence in the soil goes far beyond what we think we can control, or what we even can define in science. And the science is there after we have experimented and observed and been able to prove something. There is a lot more happening with the plant and with the intelligence of the soil, with the diversity of microbiology, than we have time to talk about in 10 minutes. But we are all observers, and we all need to approach the situation as, how am I part of this greater interconnected living organism that is what benefits and creates all life, and recreates and regenerates all life from the waste of itself, and creates from that something incredibly beautiful and powerful and nourishing and energizing. And that's where life comes from, and that's what we need to leave our children. And we have a very short amount of time to really change the way that all of this marketing and capitalism and corporatization and all of these things that exist in our modern society that are being thrown at us. How do we actually live as healthy human beings with a quality of life and a purpose that really makes us fully alive? And we are interconnected, and we have to do it together. And we also have to start with our own little piece of the puzzle. And if everybody does it, and then every neighborhood does it, and then every county and every region and every state, and it's global, and it's really like the way mycelium works, and it's happening in human nature too, and we're all connected. And the more you listen and observe, the more it's going to become easy for you to really look at your land and analyze it, and then utilize a lot of, for example, the strategies you saw today in a lot of these farms are really beautiful examples of what you can do. And we've transformed our systems in about 4 years and been able to take our piece of land and turn it into a totally interconnected organism where we don't actually need almost any inputs from the outside whatsoever. And when we do, they're either wild-crafted or they're locally sourced from somebody within our close ecosystem. So it's really possible, and it's great to really go beyond the marketing and try and really connect to what are things that people are really doing. And we saw a lot of really wonderful presentations earlier today on great examples of how you can really do this. And so I'd like to pass it over to Jacob to continue that conversation a little bit.
So it's important to understand that you really don't have to buy anything to grow your cannabis. Thank you. Or your food. It's possible to provide yourself, and nutrient companies, grow stores, they don't want you to realize that. But I think there's so many people in this room, and like we're all here realizing, okay, I'm going to this grow store. What the fuck am I buying? What is this shit? People are buying bone meal. There's ethical issues with bone meal, which is like one of the number one things people are feeding their cannabis. It's not organic grass-fed beef bones that you're feeding your cannabis. These are like industrial cattle, concentrated feeding operations. So how can we have ethical organic gardening that isn't reliant on an industrial system that we don't want to support? So we have a bunch of recipes and stuff available for free online, in an ebook format and in a printed book format. So I don't really have time to talk about it, but if you want it for free, you can find it for free. If you want to pay for it, you can pay for it. It's there for you. But you don't have to buy it, and people are lying to you, So the goal on our farm is to basically, has been to solve that problem, because people were telling me, oh, this is how you grow really good weed. And I said, wait a minute, that doesn't feel good. And I think a lot of people just say, oh, but I need to make money. But if I don't do it, I don't know if it's going to turn out. And the truth is, it is going to turn out. You have the abundance of nature around you, and nature will work with you, and you'll have a unique reflection of your own place. And it's a beautiful thing.
And a lot of people say that terroir doesn't exist with cannabis, but that's absolutely not true. We just haven't gotten to know our terroirs closely enough and communicated that enough, because we have had to be so insular from the rest of the world, and because a lot of people were afraid to just use their native soil and not buy the fancy stuff and put it on there. And you have to really trust that the soil's intelligence is very complex, and it's far greater than what you think you can control if you're going to try and manipulate the whole thing. And instead learn from it and work with it and enhance it as an artist in collaboration with nature, rather than somebody trying to really control a situation. Because really, if you just create the biodiversity and you really concentrate on building soil and making your own compost from all of the waste on your land, and integrating animal systems, which you can do on a really simple scale. You can do a lot with just a few chickens. We have chickens, 1 cow, and 1 goat. We can do a lot with that. So there are ways you just do your fire protection, you turn that into hugelkultur beds, you turn that into mulch, you feed your animals with it, you intercrop the fodder plants that you're going to feed your animals, and that's what the gophers are going to be gravitated towards, and the cabbage moths are going to go to the mustards, they're not going to go to your cannabis. And if you need to spray something, use nettle tea. Use comfrey and horsetail to cure any fungal imbalance in the soil. But if you have an imbalance, think further. If you have a pest problem, think further, because spraying it isn't going to necessarily mean that it's not going to come back or that something else isn't going to come next. It means you have something missing from the ecosystem. So look at the whole food system and figure out if you're missing anything. Are you seeing arthropods? Are you seeing amphibians? If you have snakes and frogs, then that's a good sign. Start with worms. Worms will bring the microbiology. They will transform your soil into humus, which is what you actually need. It's not just organic matter. You have to build the organic matter. You have to turn it into humus, which is the soil's job. That's the digestion of the soil. That is life right there. That's where it is created. So focus there. Start with that. Figure out how to do that. And then start planting biodiversity and start looking at your natural ecosystem, the native environment around you, and how you can use it. Oak has like 66% calcium, something like that. Oak bark ash has 66% calcium typically. I mean, like, you don't need to go buy your Calphos, your potash, any of this stuff. You have it in your wood stove at home right now if you grow in the Emerald Triangle. And then that's your terroir. You can taste the oak. It was a really creamy season this year. The oaks had a killer year. There were so many acorns. And there's this creamy vanilla-ness to the flavor of the cannabis this year. And the same strains that were really piney last year from the pining that's naturally in the environment came out a little creamier this year. And it's just an interesting thing to notice when you're actually working with your native soil. And terroir does exist. I can taste my friend's place in Hayfork, and I can taste the soil in Barker Valley when I'm there, and I can taste Hyam Palm when I'm there, and I can taste Willow Creek when I'm there. So if you're really true to the lessons that the plant teaches, then you're going to really come out with a beautiful product. And then you're actually going to have something that we can, ride this crazy wave that we're on and come through to the other side with. So hang in there, and we're all in it together. And I think what Josh and Kelly are doing with DemPure is really important because it's the only certification that you don't have to pay to play. And I think that's really important, that we have a community where knowledge is accessible, first of all, because this is about a lot more than anybody's brand or even about the corporatization of cannabis. This is about healing the earth. So, thank you.